Yeah, you're live.
Hi everybody, I'm Carolyn from the Lantern of Chagrin Valley Assisted Living, just outside Cleveland, Ohio, and I want to welcome you to our weekly episode of Facebook Live. This is a new program that we now call Carolyn's Caregiving Connection, where we offer resources, tips, and best practices to caregivers all across the United States. This is just our third episode, and so we welcome all of those of you that are joining us each week. We hope that you will like, follow, and share the posts that we have. For those who miss the program live, it is always recorded, and it is available for folks to watch anytime they wish. And we do welcome your comments, suggestions, and topics. In fact, tonight our topic is based on a couple of questions we had after last week's program, where individuals were asking us to learn a little bit more about advance directives. So tonight we have a very special guest, and we're actually broadcasting live from the law firm of Solomon, Steiner, and Peck, right here in Beechwood, Ohio. So it's my pleasure to welcome our guest tonight, Lori Steiner.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lori.
And we're happy to host you. I think we have a nice office. You can't see much of it right now, but we have a beautiful office. And welcome our clients here. We've been an essential business all through this whole pandemic. So we've been open and we have hand sanitizer on the table everywhere.
We have total social distancing here tonight. So tell me, Lori, I know you are a certified elder law attorney. What does that mean?
Well, to be certified, there's a number of different areas of law. Ohio just recognized elder law attorneys for certification a couple of years ago, but even before that, there was a national organization, the National Elder Law Foundation, and they provided a test, a vehicle that you have to get references, and you have to have so many years of practice, and you have to test on 12 different areas.
Oh my gosh.
It's estate planning, and it's probate, unfortunately, and it's trust administration, and it's retirement, and it's Medicare, and it's Medicaid, and it's VA, and it's even special needs. It's kind of the same kind of idea of two ends of the spectrum. And you have to test to be sure that you actually know this stuff. So I did the testing nationally, then I had to do the testing for Ohio, so I got the dual certification for that. So I think it just know when you're looking for an elder law attorney, to find someone who's certified, they've been tested, they have, put the effort in to really know their stuff, and that's what you need, because it's not an easy area. There's a whole lot of things going on as you age.
Well, and especially today, more and more people, and we've said in our last show, 10,000 people a day are turning 65. So the needs that we have as we grow a little older are getting more complex, and we don't all have the ability to understand what's going on around us. So things like advance directives are important for someone to know.
Very important.
Not only if I'm a senior, but for those who are watching over me and watching over my care.
Right. We tend to have children come in for their parents and get everything set up, and then their children go, oh, I don't have any of this in place.
There you go.
And the children do it, and then a lot of times we go down to their grandchildren, the children's children, and get them set up. So.
Well, we even see that at our Lantern communities, that the average age is in the mid-80s, but we certainly have people in their 90s and people over 100. So when you think about it, their grandchildren are in their 60s.
Yeah.
So very, very multi-generational. So if I'm a caregiver or I'm a senior myself, which I am, and I'm thinking ahead, how should I plan? What are the first steps I should think about when I want to go and meet with an elder law attorney? What are the things I need to really make sure are in my little toolbox?
All right. Well, there are some core documents that everybody should have. From your high school senior that graduated last year and suddenly turns 18, and you can't deal with their banking or anything anymore, all the way through to when you're making sure your parents are okay or your grandparents are okay. One real important document is a last will and testament. So what I find, most people have a last will and testament. They did it when their children were born and haven't updated it yet, and it's been 50 years now.
Okay. Guilty.
So you really got to try to make sure you watch that and keep it updated.
Right.
But even more than the will, because that's when you die, and it's helping your family, maybe not you so much. These advanced directives that we're talking about today, a financial durable power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, and the living will. So they all have served different purposes, and that's kind of going to talk through some of those things today. They are the documents that help somebody help you while you're still alive but can't handle things anymore, whether because of illness or because of dementia or incapacity in some way.
Well, I know sometimes I hear from families, and especially when we're beginning to work with a new family, and I think mom and dad think my children will watch over me, my children will take care of everything, but not all the children are in agreement. So we may have one child that will follow my line of thinking and another that may not think the same. And so putting those ideas and wishes in writing to me is a way to know my wishes.
That's exactly what you want. And when you're considering who are you going to name, some people just traditional will go the oldest son down to the youngest, Some people it's who lives close by to who lives the furthest away.
Yes.
And that's all considerations, but it's also who's going to represent you. Who's going to do what you want to do and not what they want to do. These, especially the financial power of attorney, gives that person that you've named a lot of access to your financial affairs. They can go into the bank and cash a check or make a withdrawal or change the beneficiary on your account. So you've got to trust them 125%.
Exactly.
And you got to know that they're going to be serving you and not themselves.
Right. So now a power of attorney, I know when people sign their name on some of the documents we have, they also write POA after that. So they're really meaning the power of attorney. So how is a power of attorney different from the healthcare power of attorney? Because I hear those terms all the time.
And everybody gets confused. And also the word durable.
Yes.
People get confused by that. So let me start with the financial power of attorney. Financial power of attorney is what has to be durable. Durable, most of them today are. But all the durable part means is that it's still effective when you become ineffective, when you can't make decisions and you need somebody to be able to do it, it's still valid. In the bad old days, they were not durable. You would sign a power of attorney for somebody to be able to do something only if you were still mentally okay to do the same thing. Like I had a lady who came in, her husband was in the nursing home, and we were worried about Medicaid and how to pay for everything. And I said, well, do you have a power of attorney for your husband? She said, oh yes, and she presented it to me very proudly. And it was dated from when he shipped off to World War II.
Oh my gosh.
So it was not durable. In those days,
Right.
They didn't do that. So I said, this is no good. He's mentally not able to make decisions. This is no good either. And that's one of the reasons why you had to keep things updated. You got to keep up with what the laws and things are. So durable means that your power of attorney can use this to help you even if you become incapacitated. So a financial power of attorney or financial durable power of attorney or general power of attorney, kind of synonymous. It's a document that you're naming somebody else to be able to take care of all your financial affairs. When it's durable, it means it's valid when you're not competent, but it's also valid when you're competent. So you want to make sure you're naming somebody who's going to not rob you blind because they happen to have the authority to do so.
So when folks come to our retirement committees, for instance, and it may be that they like the convenience of the child managing their affairs and their investments and their monies and what have you, but it's not that I can't do it, that I'm not mentally or cognitively aware, but I simply prefer to have another person. It's almost like a manager.
Yeah. You don't have to, you take care of everything now. Leaves them free to enjoy their life and do all the fun things that you can do at a community.
Sure. So now if I'm an older person and I want to name a power of attorney, can I name more than one child or more than one person, or is it a singular designation?
In the past, we would name more co-powers of attorney. The banks are getting funny now. There's a lot of changes to the power of attorney form in Ohio based upon what the banks and other financial institutions want to see. They don't want to be liable for anything, so they want an indemnity clause that says we're not liable if we relied on this power of attorney in good faith. And they don't want to have co-people because then they have to worry about, do they agree?
Yes.
And what if they don't agree? And what if sister tells me yes, but brother tells me no? What are we going to do about that? So pretty much anymore, we recommend one person at a time. You can have successors, but not two people serving together. Some banks, I think, they flat out refuse to do that. So you'd be in trouble with that too.
If I give my child power of attorney, is it a blanket that they can do everything from pay my bills and manage my investments. Could they also sell my house up from under me?
Yes, they could.
So we have to be careful who
You
we're
need
giving
that
the
authority
power
in
to.
somebody in case you become incapacitated, but
Yes.
you need to know that you can trust that person to do the right thing.
So does that person have to answer to anyone else? Are there documents that get turned into the court at the end of a year or 5 years?
No, it's not court overseen.
Okay.
However, there is,
Is it trust driven?
thank you.
Thank you. We have a
It's more,
technical director here assisting us tonight. Thank you so much.
so it was, it's trust driven. So
Yes.
there's no court oversight. There's, nothing like if a guardian was appointed.
Yes.
Oh, if you have a guardian, the probate court has to manage everything for
Okay.
you and oversee that person who's your
Yes.
guardian. But it's time and effort and money and fuss.
Yes.
So it's much easier to have a power of attorney in place. But you gotta trust the person. Now there are, if somebody else, let's say brother is power of attorney and sister questions his abilities or his,
Decisions?
yeah, then she has the right to go to court and force an accounting from that child. But very few people do that. Very few people know they can do that. But you still gotta trust. So financial is the one you really gotta trust because it is money. It is your livelihood. It is your income. It is your assets. It's your savings. The healthcare power of attorney is a separate document, and it is so that somebody can make your medical decisions on your behalf if you can't. The financial power is effective immediately. The healthcare power of attorney is only effective by statute when you become incapacitated and you can't make your medical decisions anymore.
And that's one of the biggest areas I see of challenge at our communities. People will speak on the phone or come in and say, well, I have both. I have the power of attorney and I have the healthcare power of attorney, as if the healthcare power of attorney is synonymous and gives me the power to make the decisions. My mother can't do this and I want this treatment, not that treatment. And I said, you can't really invoke that until your mother is not capable.
And that's an important distinction between the two. The companion document to the healthcare power of attorney is the living will. So they work together. You should have both, particularly if your wishes at end of lifetime are not to be hooked up to machines to keep you going. If there's nothing there that you don't want to be kept alive unnecessarily. So the healthcare power of attorney is only effective when you're incapacitated or incompetent. And your healthcare power can make simple decisions, like you fall down and you bump your head. You're not going to die, but you can't make those informed consent kind of decisions. So everything from simple things to the middle of the road kind of medical illnesses and things to the end of life choices. And at end of life, which is defined in the statute as two physicians agreeing that you are brain dead, permanently unconscious. Now I know it's not the same thing, but people understand it. Your brain isn't functioning anymore, or you are terminal such that there's nothing that they can do to help you. So if two doctors agree, then that's end of lifetime. And your living will serves as a written statement of what you want at end of lifetime if you can no longer communicate it at the time. So you put in writing, I don't want to be kept alive by these machines.
Yes.
So the living will is your statement, and then the healthcare power of attorney uses that statement to make decisions at end of lifetime. So you also want to you want to name somebody as your healthcare power of attorney who's going to honor your wishes. And you have to make sure they know what your wishes are.
Right.
You can't just sign this paper and go, little Johnny's going to do this for me, and little Johnny has no idea what you want. You
So
need
it's
to
an
have that
important
conversation.
Yeah. So I actually think of those documents as almost a gift for your children. So at the same time you're thinking ahead on your regular will to leave them your assets, your house, your monies, whatever it is you have, to give your children the ability to know your wishes and have it laid out so they're not in the middle of a very emotional time with your illness. If you've, again, become, as you said, brain dead or incapacitated, and I now have to make those decisions, that's a burden. I mean, it's
It
tough.
can be very difficult, but if you know this is what my mom would have wanted, or this is what my husband talked to me about, it makes it a little bit easier to have to make those tough decisions at the point that you have to.
Right. And you're honoring their wish, which is
Yes.
what it's all about. That's why we have that. So what are some of the other documents then that we should be thinking about? So we have that there's also the DNR, which is do not resuscitate. How does that play into it?
So everyone says, well, I have a DNR, or how do I get a DNR? It's actually, a DNR is a do not resuscitate order. The healthcare power of attorney and the living will reference a DNR. It's giving the healthcare power of attorney the right to request a DNR, but a DNR typically doesn't come into play until you're at that end of life time. And you're saying, I want to be full code. I want you to do everything you can to get me going again. Or it can be comfort care only, or it could be nothing. So really, a DNR is not something you've signed yourself. It's something that if you are in the right situation, your healthcare power of attorney can say, Doc, I want you to issue a DNR. And the doctor or certain types of nurses can sign those, but they're signed by a medical professional to be effective at that point.
So those are important documents, and to also have the DNR. I know when you get your driver's license now, they ask you if you have some of these documents. If we become hospitalized, that's one of the first things they'll ask you in admission. They'll say, have you signed these? And if you have, you can usually, especially in Northeast Ohio here, where we're part of a major health geographic area with university hospitals and Cleveland Clinic and SUMA, they all, even Metro, they all will keep those records on file for us. Everything's electronic today.
And your healthcare power and living will can be recorded in the county recorder's office too. So that if your doctor doesn't happen to have a copy of it and your family knows it's been recorded, they can go in the recorder's office and get a copy of it. And if you want organ donation, these forms, the living will has a section for organ donation. If you don't already have it on your driver's license, the information goes to the same place. Ultimately, it needs to be hooked to your driver's license.
So there's all kinds of avenues to get that information. So tell me this, let's say my wish is that I want something to happen, and then I get to that point where I can't speak for myself, and my children are invoking these documents, but for instance, my daughter doesn't want me to be a donor, and I wish to be a donor. Does that create any kind of conflict there, or is it really a minor thing, really?
And even, I mean, for all of those kind of decisions, living will statute in particular says the family can override your wishes in the living will. Because if they say, no, it's not, I'm just not ready yet, and the way that another family member might say, well, Mom wanted this, you have to go to court to override the living will unless everybody's in agreement. Also, something about the living will, when you don't want to be kept alive, people tell me all the time, when my husband had a heart attack and he was on the floor and he had died, and I called 911 and they came and revived him, and he wouldn't have wanted to be revived because he had this living will in place, and he had been sick and he had cancer and all these things. If you call 911, they're required to resuscitate you because they're physicians. A physician has to be the one who says, well, they were in an end-of-life position, and therefore we're going to stop now any treatment after 911. Paramedics, who are not physicians, resuscitated them to get to the hospital for the doctor to make that decision.
I bet a lot of people don't know that.
So, and I hate to say it, but I mean, if you know that's what your spouse would have wanted, they've been deathly ill, they were close to death, and something happens at home,
wait a while. You don't want, well, none of us want anyone to suffer, I'm quite certain of that, as our loved ones. So tell me, when we're pulling all these together, one of the things I found very helpful was that you sent to me this document that your firm has prepared, and I thought it was fantastic because it contains paperwork, if you will, on almost all the topics, we've spoken of tonight, and when they're completed, we have the opportunity then to put them in a file and retain them with our other important papers. Tell us what's in here, Lori.
So in our moving forward booklet, it really gives you a place to put your own information, your family's information, children, grandchildren, whatever you want to list. There's extra pages. Let's say this is a second marriage, and there's a lot of blended families these days. So there's pages so that the husband can list his family and the wife can list her family. It allows you to put forth where your important documents are. When we prepare documents for our clients, a lot of times we hold the original will, so nothing happens to it.
Okay.
So you need to know where that kind of documentation, where's the will? Oh my God, Mom just died, where's the will? So it's allowing you to put that in here. It allows you to put in all your life insurance policies, where your assets are. Sometimes that's a big problem if they're not shared with a loved one or your children, what banks do you bank at? I had to go through that with, my mom was the kind who liked to bank at every bank in town to get the toasters.
Yes, there you go.
And
Right.
the plates and all those kind of
Yes.
things. When she had a stroke and she hadn't shared that information, it was really difficult. So what this is meant to be is after you get your estate planning in order, or if you're getting ready to do that, this helps you move forward and share that information. Make sure your children or your loved one knows where this is and it's completed and it's updated. We suggest our clients every 3 years we send out a reminder letter saying, hey, it's been 3 years since you updated your documents, you know, births, deaths, marriages, divorces, health, wealth, all of those things can change your position on things, or can change who you're going to name, or you've got to keep your documents updated too. It's not a static thing that you do a will, stick it in a drawer, 50 years from now it's still good. Many of those people named as executor may be dead or moved away or whatever. It's ever changing, so you need to keep up with those kinds of changes, and then keep your booklet updated so that people know what you've done.
Now you just have to know where to keep your booklet.
Yeah.
Now, my husband still thinks Jimmy Hoff is in our basement somewhere. You've got so many things down there.
So for anybody that is listening to you on this and wants one of our booklets, they can call our office, and we can email them out because we have an electronic. We can also put it in a booklet, a hard copy, and send it. Some people don't like things emailed.
Right. And I just had someone yesterday that says, I just don't do that new email. So I said, okay. It gives me a little clue to your age, sir. But for those who would like this, you can certainly contact Lori, and we'll have her information available on some of the comments. Please feel free to go ahead and leave a message or private message us or give us a call. The phone number at the Lantern of Chagrin Valley, my direct phone number is 440-557-1104. So 440-557-1104. And if you leave us a comment, it shows up and I'm able to respond to you quickly. We also invite you to visit our website, which is lanternofchagrinvalley.com, where you'll learn all about our services and some other resources that we've been sharing, and you can also reach out to us there. So Lori, is there anything you'd like to say to us as we begin to close on planning for the future?
Well, I mean, these documents, the 3 main advanced directives, we also have, if you're interested in getting a little bit more information and don't remember what we all said here today, I also have this little handout that Care1 can get to you just about advanced directives. It's little blurbs, little like bullet points about the financial power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, and living well. Those everybody should have. From 18-year-olds all the way up to what is it for 100-year-olds? Centenarians, okay. I have a couple clients who are that. And they're still hanging in there. So those are, I would say that the most important document of any of it is probably the financial power of attorney. If you don't have that in place and nobody can pay your bills, what you gonna do? You end up having somebody go to probate court to publicly claim that you're incompetent and take over everything, basically. And it's just a hassle for folks.
Well, I can remember years ago being a geriatric outreach worker, visiting people who were able to be within the community and everyone thought they were just fine because they would wave to the neighbor and they looked nice, but we didn't all know our neighbors super well. And really what was happening when the family called me and I came in was that the person was paying the date as their amount on the electric bill. So 205 Main Street became $205.
Oh dear.
They would pay the date today, June 4th, 2020, as 604 or 60420, things like that. So those were some of the first clues for family members that mom and dad really may not be doing as well as we think because managing the bills.
You sometimes have to watch for those cues, and the conversation can be very difficult, especially for a child speaking to their parent, like, Mom, I think that you might need some help. I mean, you've got to make that, you've got your own relationship. Parents don't like to be told what to do from their children. Most folks are very fiercely independent and don't want to give up those things. So you got to find the best way to kind of
and come from this point of love.
Yes.
I'm talking to you because I love you and I want you to be safe.
And don't be accusative and don't say, Mom, you're losing your mind. That's not going to get you very far.
Well, it didn't when I was young, so it probably won't when I'm older now either.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for 30 years. Our firm's been around we're in coming up on a 27th year anniversary, so we do this stuff every day.
I'm sure. Well, tell me, I saw this flyer when I came in, and it's all about your seminar series. And I see you've got some great upcoming events for people who are caregivers. Tell us about some of those.
So we used to have them live and in person until all this pandemic hit. So now we're doing them as Zoom webinars. So you can still join Saturday afternoons. The current one coming up in June 20th is Bulletproofing Your Estate Plan. So it's making sure that your assets go where you want them to go. If you're married a second or third or fourth time, that they don't get diverted to someplace else. How to avoid probate, lots of things like that. August 22nd, a Saturday, is probate avoidance. How to title your assets so you don't have to go to court when you die, or your family doesn't have to go to court. September 12th, estate planning for business owners. Now that's a pretty specific group, but we also represent not just seniors and others, but business owners who are doing succession planning and planning for the next generation.
Absolutely.
So that can be real important.
Especially small business owners that really want to protect their assets.
September 26th is Medicaid. That's the one I'll be speaking at.
Okay.
That's a lot of what I do is Medicaid eligibility planning because it's so expensive. People can't afford it. So we go through the rules and how you can actually protect some of the assets in most cases. October 17th, we get to Parenting Your Parents. And this is getting towards the holidays. We're doing it at that point because that's when a lot of times parents and children get together again after long absence, and you can often see changes. So I say at holiday times, I know that I don't know what things are going to be like into the fall where we get into Thanksgiving and Christmas with the pandemic and traveling and things, but if you are able to get together as a family, watch for subtle differences and see how mom and dad are driving, how well they're paying bills, what's going on. Because we see a lot of children coming up in January and February. Oh my gosh, I went home to see my mom and I didn't realize what was going on.
We have the same experience. And I do think the end of the year is a time when most of us are thinking about, let's wrap up our year. Let's look at the year in review. We're getting ready for tax season. So that's a good time to even become aware of mom and dad's bills and looking at their bank statements if you're assisting them with tax preparation or getting ready to go see the CPA.
And one way to bring it up too is thinking of CPA saying, I went to see my CPA and he's got this idea about X, Y, Z. Have you ever heard about that? What do you think about that? So you start talking about financial or taxes or things to draw them into a conversation to talk about what's going on with their own financial things.
So I want to thank you for being with us tonight. Our topic was advanced directives. We were talking about should it be advanced directives or advanced directives, but either way, you're headed in the right direction to know that your wishes are going to be put forth in a formal way on paper and then shared with your family based on your discussions and protected so that as things change, as we age in place, as God forbid we deal with an illness or a crisis, that our wishes are adhered to and all is going to be well going forward, and we save the burden of the high level of emotion from our children, because none of us really want that, for sure.
Yeah, and your children, have a conversation. It's not hard. And the flip side can happen too, though. Their parents are wanting to talk about it and their children won't hear, oh, Dad, you're never going to die.
Right.
So you need to have that conversation.
Absolutely. So we've got some great takeaways for you tonight, some handouts. The Moving Forward Guide, you definitely can request that, and it's a great starting piece. You put your information
for getting organized.
Getting organized, and you keep that with your other important papers, and it's a good to go piece, especially when today we do so much electronically. So even having passwords, my husband and I, we keep this little list of our passwords because that's the most important thing. Just in fact, I lost his, and we're still trying to recover.
Yeah, you gotta be careful about passwords. We put language now in our documents, kind of new, so that your power of attorney or your executor or trustee can try to go to Google or wherever and get your password. It's not that simple. Their terms of service rule everything, and if they're not going to give it to you, they're not going to give it to you. So it's a good idea to share that digital information between you and your loved ones, or at least have it someplace, or put it in the back of the booklet.
Right, say put it right
Here's my
there.
passwords.
Here's my passwords.
So people can get in and shut down your accounts, or find out if you had an online bank account that isn't a bricks and mortars place.
Right.
How do you know that there's going to be a bank account out there?
today it's a changing world, it's an electronic world. And going forward now, just knowing that we have some options, we have some tools to start the conversation, put things in writing, manage our wishes. Those are the good starting points right now for all of us at any age. So from 18, like you said earlier, all the way up to the centenarians, there's no time like the present to think about advanced directives. So again, I want to thank you, Lori, for being our guest tonight.
Well, thank you. I love to talk about this, as you could probably tell.
Well, thank you.
And help my clients. I mean, what our firm wants to be is a place of information. That's why we have these seminars and webinars, and that's why we have handouts, and I'm happy to give information anytime, any place.
Well, great. And I thank you so much for hosting us here tonight in Beechwood.
Sure.
And for your son being our
Our
technical
tech
director
support.
of our tech support, yes. And I want to thank all of you for listening on our third episode here of Carolyn's Caregiving Connection. We hope you'll continue to join us each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always know that if you miss it, it is being recorded. You can catch it at another time. And until then, until we connect again, I wish you the best for today and always. Thanks again.